Welcome to Finding the Truth with Myke Hideous. I'm an artist, photographer, and an author. In the late 80s, I created a band called The Empire Hideous. Until 2009, I was a PC liberal Democrat, after which I became an independent. I believe in science, and I consider myself an alchemist who seeks answers to difficult questions. You're listening to Finding the Truth with me, Myke Hideous. The opinions and ideas expressed during this podcast belong to the speakers and are not a reflection on the services used to distribute this podcast. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Finding the Truth with me, your host, Myke Hideous. And thank you very much for tuning in. We are still in the beginning parts of our show. We're still working things out. So bear with us if we have any problems. And with that said, I'd like to now introduce my producer, the engineer, co-host, and my colleague, partner in crime, known as Mr. Z.
There's no away. Mr. there. It's just Z.
Mrs.
In either case. No, just Z. And welcome, everybody. I'm glad to be a part of the show and helping Myke find the truth.
That's right. I couldn't do this show without him, folks. He is the brains behind it all. So there you go.
Well, thank you for that compliment.
That's right. That's what I get paid to say.
There you go.
Anyway, so what's going on there, Z? What's happening in the world? Oh, by the way, today is the date is January 22nd. This is our fifth show,
sixth. This should be our sixth show.
That's right. So many congratulations to us, and we hope things keep going in a more positive direction. And
please like, subscribe, and share.
That's
and
what I was trying to say.
Friends know if you're enjoying our conversations and want to join us for your commute or your time at dinner or whatever else, whenever else you listen to podcasts.
You might be making love to your wife or husband. It's a good time to listen to us.
That's really weird, Myke. I'm not sure really where that comes from. I can't imagine that we would help with that erotic moment.
Hey, speak for yourself. I have a real sexy voice.
If we do help in that erotic moment, please leave a comment and below and oh yes, we love making love to your banter.
There you go. Okay, so that aside, everyone.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, anyway, we're going to start out with some topics from Z. Z's going to hit me up with some topics here. We're going to take it from there.
Well, we got something as our first topic that we've been putting on the list here, and now we're going to get out to it. And the title of it is Space is Not the Final Frontier. Don't go. It's cold. So,
yes.
Basically, we want to talk a little bit more about our perceptions on space, outer space, aliens, UFOs, and such as that.
Sounds interesting. All right.
Certainly. So where do you feel on these topics,
Well, should I go on all of them, or you want to pick one out specifically?
Well, why don't we hit the big one, UFOs.
Okay.
What is an unidentified flying object, or...
Great topic.
I know they have another term for it nowadays, but whatever you want to call those things up in the sky that you can't identify.
Right. So let me ask you a question before I even get into it. What do you believe? Do you believe that there are aliens from outer space flying in UFOs around our planet saying, wow, look at all these crazy idiots killing themselves? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not in that camp. I'm not high on the idea that, high is probably the wrong one. I'm not considering that to be a really plausible scenario. Just the actual physics and reality of the whole situation of space travel and being able to travel light years away from your home planet is fairly improbable for me.
Right.
our nearest star system is, I think, 4 light years away.
Right.
I may be wrong on that, but maybe farther away. But in either case, since we don't have even the conceptual idea of how to travel at light speed, I can only imagine that even for a society that would know how to do it, it would be such an astronomical fee. Why would you want to send your citizens way the hell out here just to, visit?
I agree.
So, at the very least, I have to say, with the news talking about UFOs more recently and the government becoming more transparent about whatever they've figured out, I will give a more of a possibility to the fact that a alien culture would actually send a remote probe, satellite similar to Voyager that's heading out of our solar system. Maybe they would have sent one our way, and maybe it could fly around in our atmosphere. But damn, that's still taking a lot into consideration. Why, where, it's not a haphazard thing to travel the galaxy and visit another planet like science fiction would love to have us appreciate. And I'm a Star Trek fan, but I'm the first one's going to admit the fact that you're not going to traverse the space between solar systems very easily and economically.
Having said that, I think, at first, the first impression I got from your answer was that you don't believe in aliens. But then,
well, I'd
hang on.
Go ahead. Fine. Well, I just want to defend myself, but go ahead.
Hang on. But let me finish the idea here. Is the second part of your answer made it seem like you believe that the possibility of alien life sending probes is a possibility, but I'm kind of confused. So, do you think there are aliens, or do you think there are not aliens here?
Well, somewhere in the universe, I think there definitely is another planet,
without a doubt,
that has come through the process of evolution.
Without a doubt,
intelligent species there. But the fact that they would point to a star in their heavens and send people, let alone a probe or whatever else, to ours is really tough to imagine. Right. I mean, it's just, again, I have some idea of the space between the objects in the universe and in our galaxy. And it's just, it's very difficult to believe that another race of beings would put that effort in there. Statistically speaking, as math is generally correct, and that's one of the universal languages of the universe. Sure, there's got to be probably some other sentient life somewhere in the universe.
Without a doubt, Z. There's no doubt.
The fact they're knocking on our door, I don't think. Yeah. I am not there.
So there's one thing that you and I can agree on, and that is that I think we both agree that there are not aliens here. And why do I say that? Because first and foremost, and I don't believe in any conspiracy theories that the government has either met these beings, these so-called alien beings from another universe, or I'm sorry, another planetary galaxy. I don't believe that. Secondly, the possibility of the UFOs that we are seeing, whether they're legitimate from the Army, Navy, Air Force, or they're some, blurry, half-ass shot footage from some amateur, or even good footage. I don't know. Most of it's blurry, like Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster. The point of the matter is, I think they're just squashed a bug. I think that there's, I know, right? Then with all the fire, anyway. So
go ahead, please. I didn't mean to interrupt.
So I think what's happening is that people see these things, and I'm not saying UFOs themselves don't exist. I've seen a UFO when I was a young man. I saw one. What it was, I don't know, but it came down through a cloud and then began going very slowly in one direction before it took off. So I don't know what it was, but I think I was about 12 when I saw it.
And it was unidentified to you.
And it was unidentified. What it was, I don't know. So that's the thing. You might see these celestial objects flying about, but what they are, we don't know. So what happens is people tend to put a tag on them and they define them as, well, they're UFOs, they're alien UFOs because we don't know what they are. Now, that's like putting saying, well, mankind was created and God created us, so that's the way it is. Or, I look in the heavens and I see an image of an angel that's in the form of a cloud, which means there's angels in the cloud. That's you're speculating. So I saw the footage that the Navy, I think it was the Navy or the Air Force, that released the most recent footage of the Tic Tac and that other device that was almost like a classic flying saucer thing, and it was rotating and shit. So I saw that, and that footage is magnificent because it from what I can tell, I sincerely believe that it was the military, that it's not a hoax. One of the, and even who's that Japanese guy, the scientist who's on like the Discovery Channel all the time?
Oh yes, I have to look up his
You know
name,
who
but
I'm
I know who
talking
you're
about,
speaking
right?
to.
Yeah.
Yes, he's like the Carl Sagan of our times.
Yes. So he responded into it, saying that based on the information they had given, which was it dropped from I think they said 80,000 80,000 feet and or 20,000, I don't know, a lot of feet, and it dropped down to like a foot above the water in seconds. There's no craft on Earth that we know of that can do something like that. And in addition to having, they said some of them even went underwater. So what am I getting at? I'm saying I believe in UFOs. I don't believe aliens are flying them. I think they very may well be instruments or tools or crafts, whatever you want to call them, that are being operated by human technology, secret human technology. That's all I can say. That's my guess is as good as yours or anybody else's for that matter.
I'm more in favor of humans creating what we're seeing in the skies than the other interpretations, because
right.
It's just it's
there's no proof.
It's tough to say. I mean, well, there's no real proof, but I mean, there's tons of people that say that they've encountered these things and done things, and I'm not really sure where to go on that without again having actual physical proof. But it's still just difficult to fathom from a realistic standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an intelligent species and you happen to be X amount of light years away from our planet, and somehow you figure out like, oh my God, there's people there. I mean, still, how are you going to react? You're not going to send people necessarily.
Mm-mm.
As far as we know, I mean, we can say that science fiction can, oh sure, maybe this can occur someday. And I'd have to talk to a real physics person, but
right.
Still, traveling at the speed of light or greater than the speed of light is not something we can literally conceive of right now.
Can't do it. It's impossible.
It's not possible. And I mean, if we take Einstein at his surface, what he said and everything, as you approach the speed of light, you turn into energy.
That's right.
So how would we retain our molecular integrity? If we're traveling at light speed? It's
impossible.
It's inconceivable at this point. And maybe another culture could have figured it out.
Maybe.
But still, why would you send people here? You really do come down to like, what is the reason for it?
Right.
So I find that tough.
And if indeed there are these intelligent alien beings that are traveling light years to get here, maybe it's not even light years. Maybe it's from our own galaxy and they're coming from another star that has a planet that is possibly inhabitable.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
But ultimately, there's no proof on any of this. So we speculate.
Travel is even more improbable than intergalaxy travel.
Right. So again, what I'm saying is that the belief of UFOs, that's without a doubt. Some of us have seen them, some of us haven't. and we only see the images that they put on television or whatever. But whether they're from actual alien beings, we will never know that.
No.
And to tell you the truth, if indeed that they say the government found a crashed UFO or have somehow connected with these alien beings, like the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which if you haven't seen it, I suggest watching it. It's a great film
Oh yeah, fabulous film.
from the 70s by Steven Spielberg. Great film. So again, all I'm saying is that we know what the UFOs are, but we don't know if there is alien life out there, and if indeed the government had some sort of communication with them, why would they hold it from us? And if these beings are so intelligent and so great, why wouldn't they come forward? You're going to tell me that this being came from billions of miles away just to hide in the shadows and make little appearances on like Mexican television, like, waving, "Hi, I'm an alien." I mean, have you seen some of this footage? It's
Unlikely.
absolutely
I
ridiculous.
saw that from Mexico or wherever in South America, and it was just literally laughable.
It is. They're all laughable, in my opinion. There's no solid evidence, and yet,
No.
as much as I'd like to believe some of the stories that people tell about being abducted and so on and so forth, I'm sorry, I'm a skeptic, and without proof, I have to have proof in order to believe it. And we don't have it.
I have said in my lifetime, it's a strange thing to say because people don't necessarily understand it, but I'm an empiricist.
A what?
And I mean that from the point that
You're what?
I want to see. I'm an empiricist.
I
like to see
hang
the
on,
empirical.
Stop. What?
Empiricist?
Empiricist.
I may be saying it incorrectly.
I've never heard that before. Well, what does it mean?
Well, I'm interested in the empirical data.
Oh, okay.
I want to know the real data about whatever is going on.
You'll have to excuse my
that's
lack
where
of knowledge with that
I'll draw
word.
my conditions. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I was going to say you'll have to excuse my uneducated knowledge, lack of
And
knowledge.
that's why
on
most
that
people
word.
don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Well, that word I've never heard that
that
word before. I'm pretty good at words. I read a lot, but
yeah, but
I
spent
never
a
heard
little
that
bit more
word.
time in science class. So
Okay.
I mean, empiricist
Checkmate.
is somebody. Empiricist is just the term. I'm fairly certain it's the correct term. I'd have to go Google it, but
That's all right.
It's somebody who looks. It's
I
not
just
somebody who
wanted
likes
to know
empires.
what you
It's
were.
somebody who refers to the empirical data and makes decisions based on empirical data.
Okay.
So
I was just trying to make sure I understood what you were saying. So carry on.
There you go. So I've clarified myself. Sorry for any confusion for
That's
our audience.
Right. So finish what you were saying.
Empiricist.
You're an empiricist.
So, yeah. Okay. I guess I need to Google it at this point to make sure I'm not talking out my ass.
Use another word.
I like empirical data to actually verify information.
Okay. Professor Z.
Let's see. I'm doing a quick search here. Yes, empirical data. EMPIRICAL.
MICKEYMOUSE.
Yes. Regardless, let's not get caught up in the minutia.
What's minutia mean? No, I'm kidding.
Okay, good.
So you want to finish off what you were saying about the UFOs?
Yes. So that's where I have the big problem, and I cannot discount people's perceptions because whatever they want to report and they've experienced, I can't discount it.
Right.
I wasn't there.
Right.
So, I mean, there was a really cool movie, I think in the late 1990s, where they did an alien abduction type thing. Do you recall that at all?
Do you know what it was called, the movie?
Quickly searching it. Abduction.
Is it about the couple who was abducted?
No, it's about a guy
who was abducted.
Yeah.
Probed.
I just was looking at. I saw a clip not too long ago.
Well, in any event,
Yeah, there's too many movies that have done that thing.
yeah.
In
What
either
was it?
case,
What
this
was
one
you
was
going to
based
say?
on apparently a real account of some guy who was taken, and he went up to an alien spaceship and he had experiments done with himself on himself, and they did a very vivid job of describing what he encountered.
Mm,
And so it's difficult to say that, okay, dude, that's just your hallucination. Because when you take into account who he was and what he did in the society, he's not a person that's going to be privy to having hallucinations about going to an alien ship and having experiments done on him.
right.
So in either case, that's my point, is that until we have some sort of substantial evidence that you can actually show on the nightly news, it's going to be difficult for
Right.
anybody to truly believe in the
That's right.
fact that there's UFOs or aliens visiting our
And
our,
and do
our
you think
planet.
and do you think that again, purely for discussion here, do you think that if in the event an actual alien came to this planet, do you think the government would hide it from us if they were able to? In other words, if a ship came down and didn't land on the White House lawn, like War of the
Right.
Worlds or
Hmm. The day the Earth stood still.
Independence Day, yeah, that was it. Yeah, the day the Earth still stood still. So if it didn't actually land on the White House lawn, and let's just say, for example, it landed, oh, I don't know, in Australia or
Sure, in the middle of nowhere.
or some
And the
foreign
government got
country,
there first.
do
And
you
the
think
government
that they
got
would
there
hold it
first.
from us? Do you think they would hold it?
It's a tough one to call. I
Mm,
mean, especially it depends on the time of our history. Certainly back in the 50s, where apparently Roswell occurred and Area 51 occurred and the whole thing. Obviously that was the time of the Cold War, and it certainly was difficult for people to believe, was this Russian? Was this whatever? Who knows?
mm,
So that's a really tough one to put your finger on, because unfortunately, as we've discussed in previous episodes, the government is pretty damn corrupt when you get down into whatever level you're talking about.
that's right.
So somebody's always going to be looking to cover somebody else's ass or their own asses, and who knows what they're going to come up with.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult, but the thing is that when there's a lot of people involved with something, I can't imagine them being able to keep it a secret. So if you have literally thousands of individuals that somehow are involved with hiding alien spaceships, I'm going to say that you're going to have a probability of a leak someplace. Somebody's going to go talk to the National Enquirer or somebody else.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy to keep a lid on that. I have to say, I'm going to put maybe a couple of facts here, because one thing occurred to me while we were talking. One, just to point out real quickly, I was talking about the movie Fire in the Sky. I don't know if
Oh,
you saw
I've
that
got
movie.
that book. I've got that
Okay,
book.
so there you go. So they turned that into a movie which was fairly,
Did they?
sort of a horror movie. Yeah,
I didn't
definitely.
know that.
And oh yeah, no, it
I
was
got to check
made
out the
into a
movie.
movie in 1993.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I got to
And
get
it's
that
worth
book.
a watch, because it
I mean, I got
certainly
to
was.
see that film.
Yeah, it was well done. In either case, it was terrifying. Regardless, the other thing to point out, that there was an interesting event that I'm pretty sure that Mike might be aware of, but it happened in 2017, where we actually had an object enter our solar system that was from outside of our
The
solar system.
Oumuamua.
There you go.
Yeah, I
I
don't
think
think
you
I'm
may have
saying.
said it better than I would.
Yeah, I think I said it wrong though. Oumuamua.
Yes,
That was an
it's
interstellar celestial object that traveled
mhm.
into our solar system from what they say another galaxy. Yes,
Somewhere else. Wasn't our
somewhere else. Yeah,
galaxy.
it wasn't from us, but it basically passed through, and scientists were amazed. And of course, there were those people who were saying, "Well, even though it's a rock, an asteroid shaped like a rock. I'm sorry, an asteroid rock shaped like a cigar." Some people were saying, "Well, it might be a spaceship." I don't think so. Um,
Well, nothing from the what they were able to detect about it gave off that vibe. It seemed
right.
more of
It's
a
always
dense, solid
some
object.
conspiracy. nut that's going to say, well,
Well,
it
it's
wasn't.
still, my point is that, yes, this object came into our solar system, it passed through, and it went on its journey to wherever it may end up.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first time that our scientists had ever identified an object that was not from our solar system.
From our solar system, right.
So I'm going to just go
deal.
out on a limb and say that maybe the Roswell, Area 51 thing does come from maybe a real event where something hit the desert, and maybe they didn't know what it was or how to talk about it because it was different than any other object that ever came from, from a meteorite or anything.
I have to interject.
I'm just giving, I'm grasping at straws right here. But I'm just pointing out that this is a real event. I'll let you interject. I'm just pointing out that this is a real event that actually happened where an object that was interstellar in origin actually came into our solar system. So maybe the government could be hiding something along those lines, but I really doubt they have alien bodies and a spaceship and all the rest of the stuff.
No, I don't think so either.
And I digress.
In fact, I'm going to tell you a little story real quick about the Roswell incident. I saw a program once many years ago, probably 20 years ago, in which they described what they said happened. So if you recall, if you recall the stories about the so-called spaceship that crashed in Area 51, they said they found strips and or the same types of, all right, so they found strips with writing on it that looked like hieroglyphics. Okay, come back into focus here. Here we go. And then they said they also found it on this metal that wasn't quite metal. Okay. It turns out, based when they did the research on what they were looking at, they thought they were looking at hieroglyphics. It turns out that the hieroglyphics turned out to be images on what they called party tape. Like if you go to a party store to buy stuff for a birthday party, you can get tape with like Christmas trees on it and that sort of thing. And if I remember correctly, they were saying the images that had faded from this item had allegedly excuse me, I always burp when I'm doing this show. So they were finding images that looked like faded Christmas trees, faded snow sleds, faded wreaths, again, all for like a Christmas holiday. The non-metal / metallic items that they found that they said were part of the ship that was very light metal was actually tinfoil. And ultimately, this alleged spacecraft which crashed was nothing more than a weather balloon that was sort of wrapped up in tape, and that was it. So some people may have heard the story that it was nothing more than a weather balloon. I personally believe it. And I think the only reason that things got out of hand with the rumors on it being some sort of an alien spacecraft is purely because of the fact that it fell on a piece of land that is a secretive military installation. So the stories begin.
Right.
That's what I believe. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I believe.
I mean, that's an interesting story. I'd be curious to know where you learned that from.
Oh goodness, this was a History Channel or Discovery Channel show. Had to be 20 years ago, like 2003.
I mean, it still sounds clearly like, it was a man-made object.
I believe it was.
And it certainly sounds like, given the current context of our current history at this point, maybe it was a Chinese balloon.
That's very possible too, right? That's very possible. Although I don't think the
Which
Chinese
really freaked them out that it landed in the middle of a top secret area. Like, holy crap.
I get what you're saying, but I don't think the Chinese even had the capability or the knowledge at that point. When did that happen? In the 50s?
I'm sorry, to launch a balloon? Yeah, they did. I
Did
mean,
they?
balloons have been around for a
Well,
long time, dude.
I understand that.
Really,
What
I think the
what I'm
Chinese got a
saying is,
grasp on balloons,
yeah,
but
but they didn't have the technology on it like they did today. The point of the matter
no,
is,
not at all,
the
not at
the
all.
point
But
of the matter
I
is
mean, it's
this.
interesting, yeah.
The point of the matter is this. I don't believe any alien spacecraft crashed on Area 51 property. I don't believe that there were any bodies found, and anybody who sees the footage of the so-called autopsy of the aliens or the mummification of an alien, it's all bullshit, all of it. If you've seen a corpse before, whether or not it is a mummified corpse or a corpse that has been badly mutilated or in an accident from an alleged an aircraft machine crashing into the ground, they don't stay intact. Okay, the images that you see of these aliens that are being autopsied or having been found, they're stiff as a rail. Their arms are at their sides. Their
Right, like they
eyeball.
were buried or something.
It's bullshit. It's all bullshit. And of course, it's
Mm-hmm.
always blur footage.
Sure.
I've never seen one so-called UFO alien footage that is crystal clear with all the fantastic camera work that we have on not only in cameras and or video machines, but freaking cell phones too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I mean, if all you're seeing is lights in the sky, it doesn't tell you enough.
you know, and
You actually need to see a vessel of some sort.
now there was a vessel spotted in Texas years ago where hundreds of people saw it in all different counties around Texas, and they said there was a craft. It was a giant craft. Hundreds of people saw it. How nobody got a picture is beyond me.
And how long ago was that?
I don't remember. I want to say within the last 10 years, maybe 15, but I think it was in the last 10 years. So people had
So it's still when most people had a camera on them.
not only a camera, but not everybody, but a lot of people had video cameras too. So you can't
Well,
tell
sure.
me, no, out of all the hundreds of people that saw it, not one person had an opportunity to grab a camera and take pictures of it or video record it. Come on.
Yeah. Well, the thing, and on the other end of the spectrum, there is a lot of video coming out nowadays that is certainly questionable. Like I did see a video that came out, and it was over. I think it was over a war zone, and it was from a helicopter, and it showed a silver orb type object flying over the city in the opposite direction that the helicopter was flying.
What city was this? Where?
I think it was someplace in the Middle East. I don't know if it was in the current war zone, like in Ukraine. It
This
may
was
have been
recent.
Ukraine. Yeah, it is relatively recent, in the
Is
last
that
year
the
or so.
one? Are you? Oh, okay. Years you're talking. I thought you were talking about the
No,
one they
last
saw.
year or so.
Okay, because they just saw another one in what I believe was Iraq, that was spotted at night. Did I mention this to you? It was flying. It looked like an octopus. It looked like, remember.
An octopus.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, get this. Remember in The Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars #2.
I
Remember
can't forget it.
when they're on the frozen planet with the Tauntauns,
Hoth. Yes.
right? And that vessel crashed into the snow. It was a probe.
The
Remember,
probe. It was a
right?
probe droid.
Probe from
Yes.
from the Empire, right? Geek. So, all right. So you remember it crashed. Remember when it came up and how it looked? It had the arms hanging from the bottom of it.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So they recently video recorded using an infrared camera at night, and this thing. I don't know if you can see me in the camera here in the video, but it
Yep.
looks like this, and it's going in a direction where all these arms and devices are hanging from the bottom. That's why they called it an octopus. So as it's flying, according to the infrared, it showed that in some cases it was hot, and in other cases, as it moved along, it cooled. Again, it was cruising at about, maybe, I don't know. I think they said, I don't know what the measure of speed is for flight, so I can only say miles per hour. but it was moving, I think, somewhere in the vicinity of like 30 to 40, maybe 50 miles an hour over buildings at night. And the military caught this, and they have no idea what it is. That was just a couple of weeks or months ago.
Well, I mean, this is a similar footage that I described, and honestly, over the decades, there's been a number of instances of fighter pilots that have recorded things that they can't explain. Mm-hmm. Not to mention commercial airline pilots. Mm-hmm. So I'll still have to go back to the basic premise that it's difficult to conceive that an alien race on a distant planet would put such effort into doing something that has such minimal impact. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're going to bother to travel all the way here to this planet, which is literally in the bumfuck of the of the galaxy, just about on the far edge of the galaxy, and if there is any intelligent life, maybe it's more towards the center of our galaxy, but still, there is no way you're making it out to our planet. Like you're taking a bus, or you're just gonna, like you're going to the moon. No, I mean, it's a major thing to try and come this far. So you got to have a damn good reason before you bother to come out here.
Exactly.
And it'd have to be something else to see. It's not like you're sightseeing. Right. And again, like, if you
I'm just stopping by to see my mother-in-law.
Right, exactly. Oh, wow, look at this cute little place over here. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, like, traveling at light speed.
My alien wife crossbred with a hillbilly from Louisiana.
There you go.
We have a white trash alien
from Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2, wasn't it? Where he came to the planet. Anyway. Just a real. Also, I'm going to take a break here to go back to a quick point that you mentioned. We're talking about. You mentioned a Japanese scientist. It's Mikako. Michio Kaku.
Yeah, Michio, I think it is.
Yes, Michio Kaku.
He's a smart guy. He's a good guy.
He's a brilliant guy, but just like Neil Tyson.
Neil Tyson.
Yeah, I mean, he's they're interesting to listen to. Honestly, sometimes though, I mean, they have a great perspective on things. Mm-hmm. So they just have some. It's worth listening to some science news when you get around to it.
Hey folks, thanks for listening to Finding the Truth with Myke Hideous. Listen, don't forget to check out all my hideous merchandise, including t-shirts, blankets, hoodies, CDs, and my book, King of an Empire to the Shoes of a Misfit. It's all available only at MykeHideous.com. And don't forget, that's Myke with a Y, M-Y-K-E, MykeHideous.com. Welcome back to Finding the Truth with me, Myke Hideous. I am Myke Hideous, and I am with my co-host, partner in crime, also the producer and engineer of the show, Z. Say hello, Z.
That is me. I say hello. Hello, everyone.
Okay, good. Go back in your hole.
It's a cage.
Cage, sorry. Anyhow, so here we are, folks. Welcome back. So we're going to do a little thing here, kind of like a short segment that I'm going to read this bit of information that I caught online. I cannot say whether or not this bit of information is completely 100% accurate. Nevertheless, I found it very entertaining. And if indeed it is true, it will blow your freaking mind. So here we go. So this all started from a little clip I saw on TikTok. And it is, was it TikTok?
Uh-oh.
Might
okay.
Have been TikTok.
TikTok.
Yeah, it was TikTok. Here we go. So it is as follows. And the headline is this: NBA, National Basketball Association, right? Or NFL, National Football League. So you're going to, as I read off these little things, you decide which you think might be the actual answer. So,
okay, this will be interesting.
So, 36 people accused of spousal abuse, okay? NBA, NFL, all right? Now, you don't have to give me the answer right away. I'm going to go through them, and at the end, You just, after everyone I say, you just think NBA, NFL. Here we
need
go.
to remember?
You remember that.
Jeez, how many I'm going to have to write them down.
Well, you won't have to. It'll just blow your mind. You ready?
Sure. Okay.
7.
I'll try.
7 were arrested for fraud. 19 were accused of writing bad checks. 117 were directly or indirectly been involved in bankruptcy. At least 2 lost businesses. 3 have done time for assault. 71 cannot get a credit card due to bad credit. 14 were arrested on drug-related charges. 8 were arrested for shoplifting. We're coming to the end. 2 more. 21 are defendants in lawsuits, current lawsuits. 84 have been arrested for drunk driving in the last year. Now, having said all that, who do you think this is referring to? Members of the NFL or members of the NBA?
In all of those instances?
Yes, everything I just mentioned to you is
one or the other.
Is associated with either members of the NBA or members of the NFL.
I'm going to go with NFL.
Is that your final answer?
Yes, since I really don't watch either, why not?
Are you sitting down? I hope you're sitting down.
Generally.
Okay. These are all members of Congress. 430 members in Congress. And apparently everything that I just read you is associated with the 435 members in Congress who have been accused of or participated in or been involved in any of the things that I mentioned previous to you. How about that?
It was a trick question, dude.
I know. It was a trick question when I watched it too. And that's why I was so confused when I watched it. I'm like, wait a minute. I thought it was the NBA. I was hell-bent. I was like, NBA. It's got to be NBA. But apparently, at the end, I was told it's members of Congress. Again, I cannot prove whether or not this particular clip was 100% accurate, but I still found it very, very interesting.
Well, only if it's actually true. And,
right,
and to a great degree, I wouldn't be surprised if it was true. It certainly would be difficult. I guess it shows some sort of maybe bias on some level to figure if you're going to guess NBA or NFL. But
I hate them both.
I have to say, yeah. Well, I mean, that's a very tough. The way when you went through the list, it's like, seriously, how could you tell the difference between one of those groups of people? I know they both have had news stories about individuals who are doing whatever. But that would be a tough thing to quantitate, just off.
Quantitative, another interesting word.
I'm sorry, I didn't say that right, but quantitate, I guess, would be the better word. In either case,
boy, I'm getting a lesson in English today.
There you go. Still, I'm surprised. I'm not surprised that it is Congress, quite honestly, because
isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's just they are.
Blew my mind.
It's amazing who we elect to be, our representatives, and the criteria that people use to elect them, because it's really not based on any sort of
merit.
Thinking.
Nowadays, particularly on the left, everything is based on emotion and feelings, and that's how they like to elect people. But obviously, that is the most stupid way to vote.
I don't know if that's a bias, to either side. I mean, honestly, I think it's a bias for people. I mean, people, they don't know. If you don't spend any time educating yourself about the different people that are running for an election, how can you make an informed decision? So you're going to look at the two and say, well, he's ugly, he's pretty, I'll vote for him. or she's pretty,
That's
or
what the
or
bimbo on The
or
View said when they asked her if who she'd vote for president, and she said, "I'll vote for Gavin Newsom because he's a good-looking guy." There you go.
beautiful.
That's what she
So I
would
mean,
vote for.
and that's certainly why JFK got the job as well, because for the first time America actually saw what I'm sorry, excuse me, what Nixon looked like, and
That's
compared
right.
to
That's
Nixon,
absolutely right. That is absolutely right.
JFK was like,
That's one of the
damn, I'll hire
reasons.
him to do anything.
That's one of the reasons Nixon lost his first election, because I believe it was he who refused to get any face makeup for television, and
He actually was just recovering from an illness too. He felt
whatever it
like
may
shit.
be, whatever it may be. All I'm saying is the first election, from what I read, is that he lost because he was this guy who wasn't as good looking as the other candidate, particularly JFK.
It certainly was a factor between everything else that was we can discuss that was going on behind the scenes for the 1960 election,
Sure.
but certainly that did not help him.
No.
Showing up that night for first televised debate and looking like
Crap.
not good.
So
yeah, exactly.
it just goes
looking
to
like
show
crap.
you, when a person decides that they don't like somebody and they're not going to vote for them for the color of their hair, or the fact that they tweet mean tweets, that has nothing to do with anything. As I've said multiple times, when you vote for a candidate, you got to always remember in the back of your mind, you're never going to get 100% of what you want from that candidate. It's never going to happen.
There
So
are no saints.
You try to pick the lesser of the two evils, okay? And again, as I'm getting to today, with today's voters, especially the younger voters, they vote with their emotions. They don't vote for the practicality of what would be the right thing to do. In other words, the candidate said he's going to do this, that, and the other, A, B, and C. Well, I like A and B. I'm not too happy with C, but at least A and B, it's 2 out of 3. And I don't care that he's got an arm growing out of his forehead, and he's the color yellow, and he's got scales. I don't care. If the guy's going to vote, if the guy is going to give you practical scenarios, it is up to you as an educated voter to decide whether or not the things that he's going to do are going to benefit the country first and you. That's what voting is about.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about how good your suit looks on the guy. It's just not. But that's the kind of uneducated voters we have today.
Well, and to some degree, it's uneducated as well as they're just not motivated. There's so much of our society nowadays where people do not want to put the energy into understanding something. If you can't print it right in front of them for them to understand, they're not going to look deeper into a subject. Mm-hmm. So that's where, media nowadays is definitely somewhat propagandist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, depending on what your story you're reading up on and what news outlet you like to watch, it's really going to be just one perspective on the story. And yep. And if, like we all know, there's 2 sides to every story. And so even if you're reading the New York Times every day, that is one side of the story. And there's definitely a different perspective on anything that you're probably reading about.
Look at what Megyn Kelly says on MSNBC. Not only her, but a numerous amount of spokespersons and talking heads on media. They're calling Donald Trump Hitler. They're calling him, obviously they call him a racist all the time. They're calling him a dictator based on one little comment he made at a I think he was interviewed by Sean Hannity. And he said, yeah, I'm gonna be a dictator on the first day, and the first thing I'm gonna do is close the border. And I think he said we're gonna drill. So dictator? I don't think so. And the fact that the guy's already been a president, I mean, he's not Hitler, okay? These people need to really read a fucking book about World War II and Nazism and understand what Hitler was and what Nazism was, and that our former
and
president
fascism. I mean, they just
and
all those
fascism.
terms are not being used correctly.
Exactly. There's no substance to the meanings anymore. When they, like, never mind. I'm not going to say it, but these people don't understand. They don't understand that what they're saying, the words that they're using, have nothing to do with any of, well, in this case, Donald Trump. That being said,
it just on that point. I mean, Donald, just like every person in our world, you need to actually get to know people, and they have their good points and their bad points.
Mm-hmm.
And I've brought this up once before, but I've watched Donald Trump my entire life. Ever since I was a kid, I've seen this guy on TV. He always had a way, because he's a showman. He loves to get on television.
Mm-hmm.
And I can take that into consideration, and I know what type of guy he is. It's not that much of a surprise, and everything that the left likes to say about him is just ridiculous.
It is, and
it's just
all
so
because
horrendous.
they're so
he would conspire
afraid
with
of
the
him.
Russians. No, anything they want to.
But Hillary Clinton did.
Right, she obviously did.
Yeah,
but
that's
he's
okay.
a rich guy, so he must be compromised, and he must be doing everything illegal because he's got billions of dollars. Like, no, I don't hate him.
He's rich, went by the books. He's rich, went by the books. Yet the Biden family has been getting money from all these countries and elected officials from these countries. I should say leaders from these countries. He's getting money. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's okay. Nobody's looking into that shit yet. I mean, there is, but where's the speed, man? Where's the speed? They're so quick to jump to conclusion with Trump, but they don't jump to conclusion with Biden. It just goes to show you that the media is on their side. There's no two ways about it.
Most definitely. I mean, look at the laptop scenario. They've had that thing for years.
Yep.
We've both have looked through the pictures of Hunter Biden enjoying his life with a couple of girls and all sorts of drugs and all this other stuff. And not to mention the emails that are on that laptop. It's all more or less public information now, but still no one's going to, sit there and say, well, yeah, this seems to be pretty evident that his son has been doing this stuff behind the scenes and giving money to the big guy.
It's okay if you're a Democrat.
That's not really happening. And how easily they swept that underneath the rug for the 2020 election. I mean, that stuff was blatantly known. And still people voted for Biden because they didn't know.
Because they wanted to get Trump out. They would have voted for a fucking ham sandwich if they could have. That's how uneducated they are. And yet they sit there. Hang on, they sit there and they talk about how the right wingers and those who want to make America great again, how those people are local terrorists, and as bad as a local terrorist, they would sooner put that sort of a description on American people, which, by the way, was 75 million people that voted for him. Right,
something like that. Yeah.
But they will not worry, and they won't talk about not only the candidates on the left, but the people on the left who have literally got up on stage in front of podiums, like Madonna, who said, "I have thought about blowing up the White House." Johnny Depp. When was the last time an actor assassinated a president? I mean, these are Snoop Dogg, who did a video where he shoots a man who is impersonating Donald Trump. It's quite obvious and very blatant. And yet, now, I mean, I'm not going to get into it, but there is the First Amendment, of course. But the point of the matter is, that's okay. But the second, have you ever seen anybody on Saturday Night Live do a skit on President Obama? President Biden? No. But Trump,
at least not
Bush,
one that was really bad. I mean, not like what they do for Trump.
That's what I'm saying. They pick and choose, and the fact that they haven't torn apart this corpse that we call president, and for the lack of knowledge this man has, and the absolute. He's a waste. He did nothing for 47 years, becomes president, and still did nothing. On top of that, I got to say this just to get off topic for a second. They sat there and interviewed Kamala Harris. Did I say it right? Yeah, Kamala Harris about the border. And do you know that lying bitch? That lying bitch sat there and told the media that it was Trump's fault and the administration prior to the Biden administration, that it was their fault when the Biden administration came into the White House, that they had to work out this mess that Trump had created. On the contrary, illegal immigration was at its lowest when he came into August.
The mess that they had to fix was to take it all out of place, to make sure that people could flow freely across the border.
They're all full of shit, and you know it.
Well, and the thing is that they're blatantly lying to your face.
Right to our face.
There was a clip that recently came out where Biden actually admitted that there's a problem at the border, but it's been that way for over 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, I don't think so.
Right to our faces. They lie right to our. They sincerely believe that the American people are fucking idiots, and I can't take it anymore.
Well, they certainly believe, I'm going to put it this way, they believe 1/3 of the population is, because more often than not, I keep seeing polls where like still 30% of the people support him or don't think he's doing a bad job or think the economy's okay. Like, where are these 30%? I swear it must be all the rich people that live in all the, the high towers in every city across America. And then the rest of us are just like, man, this thing sucks.
Right. And the funny thing is, when they do interview people, and I've seen people that get interviewed on the streets, average, normal people, from young to old, and they'll interview them and ask them why they like Biden. And these people, uneducated people, whether they're old or young, stand there and they say, well, the economy is good. Really? Really?
Well,
and they say things like, well, employment is definitely up. Really? Okay. But when you ask them tough questions, in many cases, they'll either start an argument, they'll either get upset, call you names, or they'll simply walk away because they cannot answer the difficult questions, or they know that they're wrong,
that's for sure,
and they don't want to face the facts. I'll tell you, it's really
well. I have disgusting. To say they probably don't think they're wrong. They just don't have the ability to put up any facts to back their point.
Well, I gotta say,
it's really difficult to say that, hang on, actually, let me put out a couple of points here. It's difficult to say like everything's great and the economy's better and the jobs are down, but that's exactly what the administration has been pumping out. And to their point, I listened to a number of economists, through the course of the day on daily business broadcasts. And, to a great, the economy's not that bad. The forecast is certainly bad, but right now the numbers are like okay. And they're concerned that because the numbers are okay, the next time the Fed gets together to decide whether or not to up the interest rate or not, they may not do anything, or they're hoping they're going to lower it because that would help free up the economy to work more. But still, it's like the economy is doing okay enough where these idiots that are in charge may not want to lower the interest rate, and that's the spin that they're putting out there for most people to believe. And honestly, if you're earning your paycheck every day and you're covering your bills and you're still able to afford going to the grocery store and paying for your gas, sure, you could be part of the 30% that says, yeah, no, everything's okay. I'm doing all right. I'm still saving for my future and, got a 401k and all that other stuff. Things aren't that bad. But, for those of us that may be working paycheck to paycheck, no, things aren't that great.
Right. Well, I hear Democrats complaining about it too. They're getting their paychecks. They can't save any money because they have to put it away to pay their bills, which are all increased. Mm-hmm. And as well as I do, even more so living where you live. But my bills have gone up. They've skyrocketed. Sure. But that's a whole other
Everybody's
point.
Has.
What I'm getting to here is that ultimately the people who you ask on the left, whether Biden is, in fact, it's even better when the interview starts lying to the interviewee. I think that, the interviewee. Is that right? The person who's being interviewed.
Yeah, you got it. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they tell the interviewee that they'll tell them all the facts of what Trump accomplished, and they tell them, well, Biden did this, Biden, when in reality it's the opposite. Trump was the one who did all the positive things. So when they tell these people about Biden, they're like, oh wow, yeah, well, I knew he did a great job. But then they tell them, well, actually, the fact is you're wrong, because Trump was the one who just did all these great things that I just told you about. And they're like, huh, really? They have no idea.
Which shows, again, they're not really paying attention.
Of course they're not. That's why they're uneducated voters.
Yeah. If you're not watching on a regular basis to see what's going on, how can you get a feel for reality? Because there is so much spin, there's so much propaganda.
Yeah.
Both sides are still sort of lie to protect themselves, just like humans do. We all lie. That's not what really happened.
Humans are the only people that lie and do that.
Well, we are the only sentient species that we know of. So yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But no, only people lie. Only people lie, and in government they do it quite often.
Your average dog or cat doesn't lie at all.
Maybe
they
a dog,
lie, but
a dog might lie to a cat.
Could be.
Anyway,
but, I digress.
What's next?
There is still something I actually wanted to double back on, because you just mentioned it, and thanks for throwing off my concentration.
Oh, now you know how I feel.
You were mentioning, again, how Democrats, I'm going to edit this part out. You were mentioning before about the left and Democrats and how they can, continue to support basically this absurdity because they're not educated.
Right.
Well, an interesting story that I know that you've seen something about recently, but just today I was seeing another news story pointing it out, and I can't remember necessarily the talking head that was trying to pour water on it, but essentially the story was pointing out how the polls are showing that amongst Black voters, support for Biden has dropped to record lows,
yes.
and support for Trump has gone up substantially.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure the number for Trump was from 30% to 60%.
Mm-hmm.
And this talking head, who was a Black person, and I can't remember his name, but he was apparently an older statesman at the very least, and he was declaring, well, this is just misinformation. This is our voter base doesn't understand what's going on. They're uneducated, just sort of like what we were just saying. And like, no, maybe they are more educated, because why would they, such en masse change their perspective and want to vote for the mean orange devil,
right?
As opposed to, the old cranky corpse. So
President Corpse.
Just, are you really sitting there on national television trying to tell everybody, look, well, you guys don't know what the hell you're talking about? Because that's kind of what he said. And meanwhile,
that's what they do.
No, I'm pretty sure everybody knows what they're talking about at this point,
right?
Because it's more than obvious. You only have to watch literally a minute of President Corpse doing his job to realize he's not.
Neither is somebody else. Neither is Communist Harris, the one person who was supposed to take care of the border. Communist Harris, and she's done nothing. She is a walking doorknob.
She does a great job laughing. I have to say that. So. That's not bad, and you need to change it to more of a cackle. But okay. Yeah.
What a capital T she is. Anywho, yeah, the one person who was supposed to be in charge of the border, and she only went there once. What a twat.
And not to mention, even President Corpse hasn't been there really. So
they're full of shit. Another thing he hasn't done, he never went to what the hell is it? West.
He didn't go to West Palestine.
Right.
In Ohio.
And never went there.
Didn't go to Maui.
Didn't go to Maui.
Actually, he did go to Maui.
Did he?
But it was like 3 or 4 weeks after it happened, or something.
What a loser! What a loser! Like, if anybody, I mean, even like Ted Cruz and a couple of the other guys from Congress, even they went to these places. They go to the border like once every couple of months. Even they are there, but. all the
I can't
news.
even remember off the top of my head, but I'm sure whatever happened during Trump's term, he was right there.
Yeah,
I
always,
mean, off the top of my head, I really can't
always.
think of anything that happened during his term. But if there's a national disaster or something like that, I'm pretty sure he was there.
Yeah.
Right away.
This is a man who like sleeps 3 to 5 hours a night. He gets more work done than anybody I've ever seen as a presidential figure. But Joe Biden, he's been on vacation. I think they said 40% of his term.
Yeah,
He
something like that. Yeah.
then he has the fucking nerve to tell reporters when they ask him, "How come you haven't gone to West Palestine?" "Oh, I've been busy."
Mm-hmm.
Really? Like
Or
they
how
think?
about when he was asked about Maui, he said no comment.
Yeah, no comment.
The greatest wildfire and loss of life in American history. No comment
Yeah,
at
no
this time.
comment. Yeah, and to make matters even worse, to add insult or injury to insult or something like that, um, the people in Maui got
Yes,
$700 per household, and
per month. Yeah,
per month. But meanwhile, we are paying the salaries of politicians in the Ukraine. We are paying for small businesses to remain open in Ukraine. But
well, we're
in
even paying off the
America,
politicians because we know the
and
money's not all going to where it's supposed to go. So
we're
it's
giving money to the illegal immigrants who have come in, and which, by the way, I've now recently heard we're up to the 9 to 10 million mark of illegal immigrants that have come into this country. They get all they
in
need.
the last 3 years.
They get it's right. Biggest the biggest invasion we've ever had in the history of this country, and we're doing nothing
Clearly an
about it.
invasion too. It's not just immigration. This is not legal immigration.
No.
And it's beyond illegal
and
immigration.
and if
This is
something happens,
invasion.
see, if something happens, they better hold President Corpse and Communist Harris completely. They need to hold them responsible for it, and they will have blood on their hands if something goes down in this country as a result of these people coming in. And let me be clear: I've always said this. I don't dislike the people who are coming in for the reasons that are valid, but to let all again 9-10 million people, it's not feasible, it's not
It's not
proper, it's
sustainable.
not
We can't
sustainable,
afford it.
it's
No country
all
could
of the
afford it.
above. And no country in the effing world is doing what we are doing right now with immigration.
And
It's
the rest of the world
absurd.
laughs their
They
ass off.
laugh at us, and that's why we're losing allies. We're gaining more enemies. Like, it's the people who are seeing this, and the administration who's supposed to protect the American people. They're doing nothing about it, and it sickens me. It really does. And so many Americans are seeing through this charade. They're seeing past the curtain of, don't look, don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. That's what's happening, and it's not. It's not
Because it's affecting just every town in America.
right.
It's an interesting perspective. I heard Ted Cruz speaking the other day, pointing out the fact that, here we have Eric Adams in New York City complaining about the fact that they have 150,000 immigrants to deal with, and they don't know where to put them and what
Oh
to do and all
goodness,
thing. And meanwhile, Ted Cruz from Texas is like, well, try dealing with 1 million of them.
more than a million. More
Yeah,
than a
I mean,
million.
that's the border towns on Texas are literally dealing with this stuff in infinite more higher
Yeah.
numbers than
And
New
they're
York City.
doing this because they want the red states to turn purple or blue. That's what their
Well,
goal is.
that's what's more than obvious. I mean, for years, my entire lifetime, we always the conversation was that Republicans wanted illegal immigrants because it would be cheap labor, and Democrats want illegal immigrants because it would be votes.
Right?
Well, I don't care what right now. I'm pretty sure the Republicans don't care about the cheap labor, and they really want the integrity of their country to continue and not be destroyed.
That's right.
And that means that means the Democrats are the only one that really want this, because yes, it will dilute the populace and dilute the vote and hopefully give them more of a majority, because they are the authoritarians that are trying to make it a one party system.
I sincerely hope the Latinos decide to vote more Republican than Democrat. And I say that because of this. They are a people who are they're family oriented. They are hard workers. They believe in the man slash female ideology and not
traditional families.
Thank you. Yes, that's what I was looking for. They don't believe.
I hate to point out though, like the percentage of the the amount of, if out of your 10 illegal immigrants that come across the border, I think more than half of them nowadays are from someplace else
That's
other
right.
than a Mexican or Spanish speaking country.
That's right.
So, I mean, even though you're correct in your point, that's probably is the good portion of the illegal immigrants. The other portion is why we have 20 and 30-year-old guys from China and every other place on the earth coming across the border without a family and without anything.
That's right. And
that's a problem here. And
maybe we might find out.
Well,
in a bad way.
Not sure how we're going to find out, but hopefully, as it gets closer to the possibility of a Trump election in November, maybe more of these folks will decide, I think I should go home.
I hope so, because when he takes back the White House, and Lord knows, I hope he does.
I mean, it should be something, no problem to give them a ticket home. I just saw another story recently that pointed out the fact that apparently a lot of the illegals that are coming to the cities are actually getting free tickets to go to other cities, and they don't have any identification. So They're getting on planes and getting off of planes
and they
without
disappear.
Actually showing an ID, and no one's really recording where they're going and what's happening.
And what I was going to say is, when Trump takes over, he has talked about there being the greatest deportation the country has ever known. And I support it 100%. I support it because these people have been led into this country for an ideology of Marxism/socialism. And I'm sorry, I don't subscribe to that way of thinking.
They've been led here under false pretenses,
right? And I believe
I don't know
that
what they're thinking Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say I believe that every country, every person that crosses the border into this country needs to understand that they have to assimilate, they have to come in getting a job, and just like every prior former immigrant, they need to pay, just like every single country on this planet. In order to become a citizen of that country, you have to pay, no matter where it is. I've known people who have come from other countries who paid, I think it was $10,000 to get their green card. And that's how they become a citizen. But all these people, let's face it, you know as well as I do, and a lot of other people know, these people were let in for one reason: to change what would it be? To change a country
voting demographics,
right? To change the demographics of a country that is a country. I keep saying country, of a state in this country that is red, meaning Republican, so that they can let these people in and change it to the demographic of being Democrat. Right. Thank you. A little tongue twister there.
You're welcome.
All right. You were going to say, I'm sorry.
What was I going to say?
I'm sorry. I had to get that out, or else I forget things.
Right. Well, I understand that. So, I think clearly, we've covered the issue in the way that I don't know what else. There's nothing that we as individuals can do. And the only thing we can wait for is a change in administration. And the sad reality is that if we get to November and somehow there's still somebody in office that has a D next to their name, we are doomed.
Yeah. There's no doubt.
And if they have an R next to their name, then most likely maybe we'll get to survive another election cycle. But
as I've mentioned, if a Republican does get nominated to become the president, hopefully Trump, imagine the amount of riots and dismay that is going to take place because of these little woke fuckers.
You mean if the Republican candidate gets elected?
Yeah, that's what I said, didn't I?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you said the primary, but anyway, yes.
So
Trump
imagine,
Trump is pretty much a shoo-in for getting the nomination.
right.
So,
So imagine
but
if these
yes,
little woke fuckers who can't handle anything because they're so fucking sensitive, and they can't have their emotions fucked with because they'll get all screwy. Imagine the riots and just chaos that they are going to create on innocent people, their businesses, and so forth. Like, look at the amount of morons that stand on a highway to protest the use of oil and gasoline. They'd rather stop traffic for people that are going to work, going to school, in an ambulance, going to the hospital, has a doctor appointment, whatever. Just imagine you've got to wait in traffic while these assholes stand in the road to tell you you need to go into an electric car and stop buying gas.
right.
They're
Yeah, we
so
have to stop
lucky.
using oil. Yeah,
They're
the whole
so
thing.
lucky that
Well, it has
I
been fun
live.
watching.
They're so lucky that I live in this world in reality. Because if I lived in a fantasy world, I'd be out there with a machine gun taking them out.
Sounds like a different version of the Purge, but yeah, the fun thing has been watching some videos where people are fed up with these people doing these things.
Of course they are.
I honestly, I am more than mystified in how their thought process thinks that by sitting in the middle of a road and blocking a bridge and doing these other things, how you're changing anybody's mind.
They're
That
only
you literally,
infuriating us.
yeah, you're literally delusional if you somehow think going up to a famous painting and
Oh,
disfiguring it and stuff like that is going to change anybody's
drives me
mind. I
crazy.
mean, you really are in a whole different world when you think that that's a plausible solution to getting people to listen to you. uh,
Again,
you're really
they are so lucky I'm not there, because in my fantasy perfect world, I'd beat them with a club. You want to throw paint on the Mona Lisa or anything that Michelangelo or Da Vinci did, or
anything,
anybody, any work of art. You
anybody's
want to
artwork,
destroy it because of your sensibilities and what you believe in. You know what? I believe I believe in not having mainstream religion. Does that mean I'm going to jump on a plane and bomb all the areas in Israel that are associated with Christianity, Judaism, or Islam? No, I'm not going to do that because I'm not an
no,
idiot.
because you're a civilized individual who has intelligence, but there sadly is a lot of hatred in this world, and it's interesting. I'm just gonna let's sort of wrap up the subject with
Yes,
this point, but
yes.
I was as I peruse all the information in the world through the internet, I saw this story recently that was from Canada, and it was talking about in a particular part of Canada where there is a native tribe that of course was indigenous to that part of Canada and before the rest of us showed up here. In either case, it was interesting that the whole news story was talking about the fact that in the last 2 years or so, there has been about a couple of dozen churches that have been burned down
Yeah, I
in
heard about
Canada,
that.
and specifically on a lot of actual tribe territories, but also in some cities and stuff like that. And so there is somebody who, and this isn't necessarily a remote story. I've heard this in Egypt at times. I've heard it in many different parts of the world, where suddenly they start burning down Christian churches,
Hmm.
and it's people have real vendetta or real anger towards that religion for whatever reason, and this is the way they express it, and it's really horrific. It's not again, you're not going to affect any change. In fact, most people that are of that religious or Christian persuasion, they're probably even more drawn to their religion by acts like that. So
Hmm.
it's not going to
Just
change the conversation.
just the fact that, I mean, that's a deep subject. I'm not even going to go with the details on it. But you're right. You're absolutely right. And the fact that these people think that by burning down the church, it's going to do something positive. Idiots.
You may do something for them themselves, but you're not affecting change in your
No.
community or changing anybody else's minds.
Anyway,
next.
We
digress. We can move on to our next break here.
Here's something before we go into the break.
Sure.
Something to think about, folks. Did you know that teachers are allowed to spank children in 17 American states? Think about it.
Still?
Yeah, still. Think about it.
Which states? I mean, we got to move our kids to those states, man. I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, that sounds like 17 states that might be raising the kids, or educating them correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
I remember going to school and having the threat of the principal spank me, for doing anything wrong. So, interesting point there, Mike. So I want to restate that for the audience.
So, folks,
what's it?
Just remember, teachers are allowed to spank children in 17 American states. Which states are they? I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested in any of the merchandise that I sell, you can go to MykeHideous.com. Just like the name of our program here, Finding the Truth with Myke Hideous. If you go to MykeHideous.com, you can get my book, which is called King of an Empire to the Shoes of a Misfit. It is about my years as a performer and a musician, and covers a range from 1988 to 2014. It also talks about my short but very successful point in time when I sang for the famous punk rock band known as the Misfits from Lodi, New Jersey. And you can also get my t-shirts, my horrible artwork, horror design, blankets, t-shirts, throw pillows, girls' dresses, so on and so forth, as well as my music, downloadable CDs. What else? I don't even. Just go to the damn website and check it out. So yeah, that's what I got. You can, and the most recent thing is the book. Hopefully I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to have a whole bunch of new t-shirts up and ready to go for sale. And that's not just the music stuff from Empire Hideous, the band that I was in, but this whole other section of design of clothing that I have with my artwork designs on them, and I call it horrible artwork. And it's going to be all kinds of stuff like that, old, creepy stuff. In case anybody doesn't know my background, I kind of dabble in the occult, so all creepy, cool stuff like that. So yeah, folks, if you're interested in anything, go to MykeHideous.com. Click on the shop section and go down, and a couple other clicks and you're there. Thanks very much, guys. Welcome back, folks, to Finding the Truth with me, Myke Hideous, and my co-host and colleague, Z.
That's me. So we're at the sort of tail end of our program, and I guess we want to get some final thoughts. And I had one interesting story just to sort of bring up again, like, things we've talked about, but also just revealing against the truth of what's going on in our world. And this was a recent story out of Oakland, California. Have you heard of the restaurant chain In-N-Out?
Yes, I've eaten there.
Okay. All right. So they've decided that they are closing their Oakland location in March due to unsafe environment.
No.
So this is once again proof that, California has got their head up their butt, or at least Gavin Newsom may. A Bay Area In-N-Out burger location is going to be shuttered. It's shuttering its doors due to crime.
Shutting its doors?
Shutting its doors, yes. Gotcha. Shutting its doors due to crime.
And what crime would that be? Are they stealing hamburgers or are they robbing them?
Oh, no, it's worse than that. The restaurant is the only one in Oakland, California. The company told the news outlet that regular car break-ins, property damage, theft, and armed robberies of customers and employees led to the decision to shut down. We are grateful for the local community, which has supported us for over 18 years, and we recognize that the closure negatively impacts our associates and their families. The chief of operations was quoted as saying, "Additionally, this location remains a busy and profitable one for the company, but our top priority must be must be the safety and the well-being of our customers and associates.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot ask them to visit or work in an unsafe environment." So here we go. Just, we already know, there's so many major cities with so many closures, but here's just the In-N-Out Burger. They
Yep.
can't sell hamburgers there anymore because things suck so bad in Oakland, California.
Yep. And I completely agree with them and understand, shall I say, I can imagine what they're going through. Just like Walmart closed down in Chicago, just like other large companies that were in malls, for example,
Sure.
Nordstrom,
Targets and stuff in San
Nordstrom,
Francisco.
uh, uh, Nordstrom,
Mm-hmm.
I believe Macy's and other companies in the malls of Chicago have shut down. And what's the first thing their idiotic moron of a mayor says? Well, they're racist. So, you know what? With all
Or they
respect
blame it on
to
the Republicans.
with all respect to the Republicans and the decent people out there who are going to miss In-N-Out Burger, frankly, you guys voted for it. So shut the F up.
Yeah, well, it's just exactly another reason. The only thing we can do is vote and try and change things for the better. Once you realize that you've made a horrible mistake,
Yeah, well,
but
good luck with
California has
that.
been making horrible mistakes for years. I do
Mm-hmm.
remember there was this guy who was the governor twice. What was his name? Brown, something Brown, governor.
I don't recall.
You don't recall him? Oh
No.
yeah, well,
The only
he's
other
almost
governor
sort
I
of.
knew was Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's it.
Ah, well, there's another example as well. Yeah. I mean, not to he was sort of a quasi kind of rhino Republican because he
Yeah.
certainly went with whatever the breeze was taking him, but
Yep.
still, he's definitely a conservative, good guy, and he's worth watching on social media now.
Better than Gavin.
That's for sure. I'm pretty sure Gavin has never built a muscle, not to mention actually worked on anything in his life.
I talk about going green. Maybe they should stop making the stuff that he puts in his hair.
I don't
Anyway,
know what would be a substitute for that.
shellac. Anyway, so hit me up, man.
Oh, what we need? You need something else to go on about?
Well, In-N-Out. I mean, I'm sorry that's going to happen. I feel bad for them. I really do. Great burger. I've been there when I've been in California. In fact, I was at the Berkeley store when I went there in 2006 or five. I think five. Anywho, yeah. So yeah, it's too bad.
Okay,
I feel bad for them,
that's too bad.
but I am not in the least bit surprised.
There you go. Well, I guess another thing I had here on my list is that I was thinking that I think our audience would like to hear more about Myke Hideous and his past and any sort of stories that you'd like to share with our audience.
How much time do we have?
Well, only about 5 minutes. So, you got something really short and sweet. I mean,
No.
no, I mean,
So what's the
I
question?
figured it'd be a good opportunity to, for our audience to get to know Myke Hideous a little bit
Okay.
better. There's certainly a percentage of people that may not necessarily know your past other
That's
than
true.
the introduction on the show. So I just figure, if there's what would be one of the more cooler moments in your rock and roll history that you'd like to share with the
Before
audience?
I even give you an answer, I want to let everybody know I actually wrote a book about this called King of an Empire to the Shoes of a Misfit, which is only available on my website known as MykeHideous.com. Myke with a Y. Myke is spelled with a Y. So in reference to Z's question, I wrote a book about my musical career, which starts in 1988 and finishes off in 2014. So, and I'm not boasting when I say it, but the book really covers a lot of my life as a performer. And a lot of people tend to enjoy the section, which is an entire chapter, in fact, 2 chapters based on my involvement being the lead singer for a band called the Misfits, which are one of the most popular punk rock bands in history at this point. So I sang for them in 1998, which catapulted my career as Myke Hideous and the band that I had been doing for, at that point, 10 years, from 1988 to 1998, the Empire Hideous, which, by the way, is where I get my name, Myke Hideous. So,
There you go. And so, just to clarify, you took a break from. Did you go to your bandmates and say, "Okay, look, I got this other gig working for the Misfits"? How'd that work out?
well, no, actually, I had broken up the band. Again, all this detailed stuff is in the book, but uh, at
Just
the
share a little tidbit with
I'm
the
going
audience.
to, yes.
Yeah.
At the time, I broke up the band with the musicians that I had at the time, and that was February 16th, 1998, and the band was technically broken up at that point. In in April of the same year, I went to a convention, a horror convention in Secaucus, New Jersey. And whilst I was there, I bumped into members of the Misfits who I had known for 11 years prior. And oddly enough, I happened to be in the right place at the right time. Um, and they basically said, give us a call. We want you to sing for the band. And that's ultimately what happened. I got a call let's see, it was April when I met up with them. 2 weeks later, I got a call in early May. Yeah, early May. They were like, come up. We want you to audition. I went up, I auditioned, and I got the job. And it's funny, it, you know, I was thinking, after I did the audition, I'd sit down with the guys and the manager, and they would say, okay, well, this is what we need. And they'd give me some formal forms to fill out. But no, while I was singing in the band, doing the rehearsal, which there was like 20 people observing me, all of which I had no idea who they were. So there's 20 spectators. I'm playing the songs that they asked me to sing for the rehearsal slash uh, rehearsal slash what am I trying to say? The audition. Thank you.
Audition, yeah.
So while I'm singing, the manager comes up to me and hands to me a piece of wood, like I don't know, like maybe 2 feet by a foot. It was like it was like Moses being given one of the 10 Commandments, and it had writing on this big piece of wood. It said, "I need your full name, your full real name, your mother's maiden name, your social security number, and I forget what else." And he hands that to me while I'm singing in this audition. And like I said, it was like getting a 10 Commandment from Moses or from God. And that's how I was brought into the band. And literally 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to England.
So did you sign the piece of wood, or did you finish filling out the information on there, or?
That's a good question. No, I didn't. I didn't sign the wood or give the information on the wood. No. He only did that because he had nothing else to write on. So he picked up a piece of wood, used a marker to write all that information, and handed it to me. I thought it was like
How
hilarious.
often do you find lumber in a recording studio? Is that a regular thing?
They rehearsed in there's a factory. Do you know what X-Acto blades are?
Of course.
Okay.
I'm an artist.
All right. So when the Misfit guys lived in Lodi, New Jersey, the father owned a company that cut metal. And one of the first things that they used to make was X-Acto blades. And if for anybody who doesn't know what an X-Acto blade is, they are precision cutting tools used for cut and paste graphic arts, architecture, and a
Which
lot.
doesn't exist anymore. But
Yeah, right.
yes.
But also for artists who need to make precision cutting and that sort of thing. So they're just basically blades, and their company would take metal and cut it into razors and the pens the pen handles that would hold the razors that you screw in. So that's how they started. Eventually, they formed their own company called ProEdge, which was basically the same thing as X-Acto knives. They also extended to making pen light flashlights, stethoscopes, and a variety of other precision-like tools.
And how are we getting back to the sex? I mean,
The Sex Pistols.
Misfits.
Well, what I was saying is
Sorry.
they they owned this factory, and when they moved the
You mean the
factory,
guys of the band? Oh
right?
no.
Yeah, because it's two brothers, Jerry and Doyle, who are the bass and guitar, and then the other brother that they had was Kenny, who was at the time not only their working manager, but also their mascot, who would come out on stage dressed as the Crimson Ghost. But I am refraining from my story here. So
Okay.
ultimately, they had this factory. The family moved the factory and themselves up to Vernon, New Jersey, where they got a bigger factory to make all this other metal stuff. So uh, when I first met Jerry, it was at this factory, and in one corner of the factory, so now you got to imagine, there's all like on each side. There's two rows of these giant machines that take long uh, rods of metal and cut them down into what they make them to be, whatever it might
Right.
be.
Yeah, they get
So
processed. Yeah.
it's like about, I'm going to say 50 to 70 yards long and about maybe 20 to 30 yards wide. And as I said, all the machines went down in two rows down the factory. In one corner of the factory are the drums, the amps, and the guitars and everything that they used to rehearse. So when I first met them in 2000, I'm sorry, in 1986, or was it 85? I think it was 86. I went to the factory, and that's where I met Jerry. And by the end of the night, they actually rehearsed in the factory. So that's
Wow.
yeah, that's where they rehearsed. Never rehearsed in a studio. They only recorded in studios. Um, so for me being there and doing the rehearsal or the audition, I had been there prior to because as I said, I knew them personally. So going to the factory to do the audition was not something unusual to me. I was used to it. I had been there many times before I actually auditioned for the band.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I met them in 80, as I said, 86, I believe. And for a while, I was doing all these things for the band, particularly Jerry, who was going through a lawsuit with Glenn Danzig, the original creator and writer and singer for the band, who eventually quit in 1983 to do his own thing. So I go up there, I meet them. I'm involved. I'm not involved, but I'm helping Jerry with his lawsuit. He basically had me go buy any bootleg Misfit record that was out there. That's when they still had records. And I would buy these things and bring them to him because he was trying to find out if Glenn Danzig was releasing these bootlegs and Jerry was not getting royalties. Now, mind you, even though Jerry was in with him at the beginning in 1977 when the band started, it was Glenn Danzig who wrote all of the music. He was the writer. So technically speaking, there really wasn't any royalties to give Jerry. But Jerry had this whole lawsuit thing going on. He wanted all the ex-members of the band, and there were quite a few of them, to get royalties because he knew that Glenn Danzig was getting a record deal from Geffen Records. Was it Geffen? No, I'm sorry. Deaf American, which was made by or created by Rick Rubin, the famous producer who did the Beastie Boys, Slayer, Run DMC, and a few other
Oh, really? Okay.
crappy rap bands that I can't stand. Yeah, but he made millions. He made millions because he knew that Americans are so stupid that if you push rap music down their throat and play it on every radio station, you'll eventually get them to like it. And that's what happened.
Well, somebody will like it. It's a marketing thing, quite honestly. You're going to find a percentage. I mean, look at Red Bull. I don't know who actually drinks Red Bull, but it's disgusting. It comes in a tiny little can. It tastes like crap, and it costs a lot of money. And like, why?
Well, have you ever drank it before?
Yes, and especially mixed with vodka, and it was
gives
nasty.
you a buzz. It gives you a buzz.
Yeah, right. Whatever.
Well, I'll tell you, I had two. I had two one night when I was DJing. I had two Red Bulls. I had just started drinking it, and I didn't know the kick that it gives you. And I ended up getting a high off of it, and then I had a real crash, like when you come down off of something, and I felt like crap afterwards. But yeah, that's
a problem. That's not what I expect from my average, drink that I just want to.
I certainly didn't expect it. But anyway, yeah, that's Red Bull. And that aside, the Misfits story, I could go on. As I said, I wrote a book about my career as a performer, having started my band, how I got into the Misfits, the tour that I did, two tours, one in Europe, most of Europe, and then one in South America, which was the band's first visit to South America, and we played some really big shows. In fact, when I was in the band, I played the biggest shows the Misfits had ever played in their career.
Wow. And where was that?
Both Europe and South America.
Oh, in both those places.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, Europe, I played the biggest show, not only that I ever played, but the biggest show they ever played in a place called Sweden, for a festival called the Hultsfred Festival, which was all these other bands that were all these other stages, and 12,000 people.
Was there Swedish girls there?
Oh my goodness, were there Swedish girls there? Yes. Yes, there were plenty of them, and my neck hurt from like looking at every one of them. I kept turning around. Yeah, they were beautiful. In fact, in Switzerland, they were even prettier. Denmark, yeah, all those northern, not Nordic, northern European countries, just beautiful women, beautiful. Couldn't believe how beautiful.
Well, thank you for taking us on that journey, Mike. That certainly was fun.
Again, if you really want to hear more, get my book, people. I don't mean to sound like I'm selling you here, but if you are interested in my past as a performer, having sang for the Empire Hideous, the Misfits, Spy Society 99, and the Bronx Casket Company, get the book, MykeHideous.com. Warning: if you find the content of this program to be offensive, the speakers will not be held responsible if you decide to throw yourself into an active volcano. All right, folks. I want to say thank you to everybody who has listened to the podcast tonight, or whenever you're listening to it. Thank you very much. We sincerely appreciate your support. And hopefully, if you can subscribe to our channel here, you will get updates and hit that notification bell thing so that you can be notified when our new episodes come out. We are gradually building our reputation here, so the more you tune in to listen to us, the better. And I sincerely hope that we are offering you quality entertainment and quality top-notch topics. And on that note, I would like my producer and co-host Z to come in and say goodnight. And
certainly, well,
certainly,
yes, and
certainly.
certainly, that's right. Well, just to strengthen what Myke had pointed out, like, we're happy to provide this conversation. We're both news junkies. We're staying current on what's going on in the world. And if you don't necessarily have the time to, you can sort of rely on us to tell you what we're finding out. Of course, you need to go out there and do your own investigative work and to find out what is actually true in this world. You can't take anything on face value, but we really do appreciate you listening. And be sure to like, subscribe, and be notified if you want to keep up with our episodes. We're trying to release every Friday right now.
Right.
So at the very least, we're going to be doing that, and we're hoping to put in a live show somewhere in between. But we'll let you all know about that when we get to it.
That's right.
So, Myke, it's been a pleasure bantering with you again tonight.
Yes. And on that note, folks, thank you so much for tuning in and listening. We greatly appreciate it. You have been listening to Finding the Truth with Myke Hideous. That's me, Myke Hideous. I am Myke Hideous, and the show you are listening to is me with the show's name in my name in the show's name that you're listening to. So keep listening. And last but not least, if you're interested in any of the merchandise that I sell, you can go to MykeHideous.com and it'll give you all kinds of stuff. I got new t-shirts that are coming out probably by next week.